What's up guys, Kuro the artist here. You've read the title right, I'm going to be reviewing every episode of the Ben 10 franchise. One season per video with my own commentary and ranking system. If you'd like to know more information about how these videos will go, such as my breakdown of my ranking system, an outline of how these videos will go, and updates on future projects of this channel such as And Beyond and 5 years later, keep watching. But if you're only interested in the reactions, then you can skip to this time code to skip straight to the review. I did the first episode already, just as an example of what to look forward to. Then subscribe and look forward to the future reviews. Now that you're sticking around, I'll tell you a little bit about why I'm doing these videos. If you were a long viewer of this channel, you'll know that a little over a year ago I stepped down as being the face of this channel in favor of producing the videos instead of starring in them. But to this day, I still get a fair amount of comments and messages of people asking me to return to the channel, and the times that I had here and there for special occasions have been received with a lot of positive reactions. So I thought about my reasons for leaving, and if I were to come back, how would I do things differently? It's hard for me to watch my older videos, half because of just the low quality production, but a lot of it because I never really was able to see myself in them. For one, my opinion on a lot of things have changed since releasing a lot of the older videos. But with the older videos being the most popular ones on the channel, I've now created a brand for myself that I don't really agree with and never really did to begin with. Like, I've always thought the funnest part of making videos was feeling like I was producing something new. And with YouTube content, there's so many different ways to make videos. And I wanted to try some out. I liked watching a lot of power scaling videos at one time, so I tried making a power scaling video. Or a lot of the YouTubers that I'd like that review stuff like Diamond Bolt, who I got to collaborate with, or Mr. Sunday Movies uses a lot of quick editing in their videos and like would insert clips and memes and stuff, so I tried making videos like that too. Aside from the obviously big projects like the animations and the And Beyonds, pretty much all of my older videos were me taking an idea for something I'd want to commentate on and fusing it with a video style that I felt like I figured out the skeleton enough to want to try. But the more popular I got, the more I'd have like the reputation of the whatever kind of video people would watch, and you know, people would come to me with a lot of comments and a lot of demands for similar content, and it would create some, let's say, interesting discussions. And honestly, a big part of me just wants to delete all the older videos. But I know a lot of people enjoy them, and aside from my own personal opinions changing on some subjects, they're still pretty solid videos. They just aren't me, like they aren't my voice, like the kind of stuff I want to do or would do if I kept doing YouTube. So I figured if I'm going to appear in videos on our main channel again, I want to do something I can look back and say, yeah, that's something I can agree with. I can see myself saying that. I felt the most genuine I could be with you guys is if I did something unscripted, and since doing my Drawing with Kuro streaming series, I've gotten a lot more comfortable just freely speaking and feeling like I can actually say something coherent without a script. So next step was figuring out what kind of content I could produce that would actually be good, but also entertaining for you guys. That's the key. Like, I take the fact that there's like over 300,000 subscribers on this channel as like a very significant achievement, and a lot of it is because of the hard work of myself and the Ink Tank. So I wouldn't want to just release some half-assed videos just to say like, yep, that's me guys. So talking about Ben 10 episodes just seemed like the perfect decision, at least for now, to experiment with this type of video format. But I still want to make sure that these reviews is something that you guys actually want to see and be engaged in. So I reviewed the first episode, and then there were 10 in the method I imagined, which you will see shortly. And I'd like you guys to review my review. Like, tell me if you like or dislike my ranking system, if I'm talking about things that interest you, or if there's other topics you'd rather me focus on. But before we jump into the review, I want to give you guys some updates on future projects on this channel. But again, if you don't care about any of this and you just want the Ben 10 reviews, this is the time code to go to. Good news, everybody. Episode 7 of And Beyond is on the way. Been doing a lot of pre-planning with Ash, and we're very excited for this episode. Ever since we started adding in little plot threads to sort of weave through the episodes, like with the Saiyans and the Monsters episode, we've realized And Beyond could be much more than what it is. And while the series is meant to be a side dish to the main course that is 5 years later, and we don't want it to become so overwhelming that we now have 2 giant cultivations to deal with, we still feel like we've set a bar for And Beyond with the last 2 episodes, and we're interested in keeping that going. This episode should premiere late February, early March if things go well. But if you'd like to know more about what it's going to be like in advance, you can join our Patreon for $1 tier a month. So, some of you guys might have seen our Danny Phantom motion comic trailer. While it was made just to help promote 5 Years Later Chapter 10, which is now available on our website to read for free, we've realized the capability of this method seeing it put together and how it might be able to present 5YL in a newer and refreshing way without having to redo the entire thing. 5YL was always best an animated series at heart, but during its conception, a comic seemed much more realistic to pull off. And I'd rather make something that I'm capable of doing, rather than daydream of the impossible. And to this day, a full animation still seems out of reach, but a motion comic does seem like a happy medium. And just to be clear, I can't say for 100% this is a surefire thing as of now. Because if we were gonna do this like everything we do, we'd want to do it big and we want to do it right. To the best of our abilities, at least. For one, if you've seen the earlier chapters, you'd know that a lot of the art is less than ideal compared to how it is now. Half of that is just due to sheer inexperience as an artist, but I also didn't really prioritize 5YL as much as I do now. Like, I'd have to draw the pages traditionally whenever I had free time at work or at a friend's house with it stuffed in a bag, and then do my best to clean it up with Photoshop while also learning how to use Photoshop in the process. I'm very happy with how much the earlier chapters have taught me, but with the way they look now, I can't see myself putting in the effort to get them professionally voice acted and scored in their current state. So if I were to do this, I'd want to at least go back and clean up some of the earlier pages first. Now, to be clear, I mean cleaning them up instead of a total redraw. Some of you guys might have seen my redraw of page 7 from chapter 1 back in 2019, where you can compare it to what is now my old new style, style that I still use for the 5YL wiki, but I would be cleaning up just as in something like this. If there was typos, I would fix those, I'd make the art a little bit less dirty, and in some cases I'd be redrawing some of the weird faces and proportions, but I do want to honor the earlier look and art style of the previous chapters, and I know a lot of fans have become attached to it. I personally prefer the newer stuff, but it's nice to know that the old stuff still holds up to some people. So yeah, not like this redraw, it would just be a cleanup like this. It's a little bit easier to manage, and you know, it's not like I'm redoing the whole comic, and it wouldn't really look like this anyways, because again, I draw pretty differently now that it's been another 2 years. If I was gonna redraw it in 2021, it'd look something like this. There's also the actual task of assembling a solid voice cast that would really suit these characters. And with some characters with very distinct voices like Rook Blanco, Technus, Dr. Animo, even in a way Gwendolyn. It's not that I'm looking for spot-on impressions, but they at least have to capture the same essence, and of course the voice actor or actress needs to have optimal microphone quality. Right now we can say that we can at least count on Paxton Lee to return as Ben, who you guys might have seen in our Inura System episode of And Beyond.
One more thing. Whatever we were before, today we're a team. We look out for each other. We win or lose together.
And Nicholas Andrew Louis, who voiced Danny in our motion comic trailer and also in the Jake Long death battle.
Dad's experiments led to an accident that turned me into the ecto-powered superhero known as Danny Phantom. But years before me, he also created my arch nemesis, Vlad Plasmius.
And perhaps we may have a few more voices cast for future projects. Now, for those watching right now, some of you guys might hear this and want to get involved, but again, I'd like to reiterate, this is not a project that's happening right now, so please relax on sending us your voice reels as of yet. I will say though, we are looking for professional talent, so of course we would have to pay all of these actors. And that can easily rack up the required budget alone. But it's a budget you guys can help us accumulate by supporting us on Patreon, checking out our merchandise, or even something as simple as liking and watching our videos. I know, I said I'd never be one of those people that's always promoting their merch and being like and subscribe, because, you know, I like doing YouTube for the interactivity and community, not so much for the finances, but I also can say I've never done a project that would require this much of a scale before, and when it comes down to it, I would need the money to pay these people. So a huge shout out and thank you for all of those that have been showing us that kind of support through Patreon and merchandise. We hope we can continue to give you guys the content that you're looking forward to. We'd also like to make sure there's an interest in this too, because we wouldn't want to put all of this together and create yet another giant project to work on if a lot of people aren't even asking for it. So if you'd like to see our Ben 10 Danny Phantom motion comic idea come to life, please share the trailer around with your friends and on your social media and see if it's something that they're looking forward to as well. Now let's stop beating around the bush and get to the actual reviews. So obviously I've never done reviews like this before, and I didn't really know how to go about them. So my first idea was I would watch the episodes and then I would take notes. And then at the end, I would film myself just freely speaking like I'm doing to you guys right now based on like some notes I would have off to the side on the episodes. But the longer I'd watch the episodes, the more notes I would take, and the more notes I'd have, I'd want to remember to say everything. So the notes became very detailed and elaborate, and they kept piling up, and then eventually I was just writing a whole script again, and that kind of defeats the purpose of what this project is supposed to be about. So I came up with a new method where I would film myself watching the episodes and then pause frequently to say my notes and reactions, and clip together all the times I spoke into a compilation, which would be the review in itself. And then I realized I'm basically just making a reaction video, right? But this did seem like the best method for me to get my thoughts out as transparent and direct as possible. So that's sort of what this review turned into, but not really in a typical reactionary sense, since I've seen these so many times, but more of in a discussion sense. Well, a one-sided discussion. I mean, if you guys can talk back to a video that was already recorded, that'd be nuts. I didn't know if I should have a theme or a point either when doing these types of reactions, like if I should focus on analyzing the character or critique the writing, so I pretty much let loose with this first reaction. Basically, the way I did this is if you and me were to sit down and watch this episode and you gave me permission to pause as many times as I'd want to and ramble, this is what you would get. For this one, I ended up talking a lot about the episode's art and animation, but I mean, my name is Kuro the artist, so that kind of stuff is what stands out to me a lot. But I did indeed talk about a lot of other points of the episodes, both from an in-universe perspective and from a production standpoint, but I basically literally just said whatever popped into my head at any given moment and cut it all together. Then, after the episode, I give a quick recap and rundown of my thoughts, and then I give the episode a score. Each episode has a chance to gain up to 25 points. First, I would score the plot on a scale of 1 to 5, and by plot, I just mean the story within the episode. Was it good? Did it make sense? Was it creative and all of that? Then the next category, characterization, again on a scale of 1 to 5. This is just to see how the characters were treated in the episode. Did they have a good dynamic with each other? After the series has gone for a bit, do the characters still seem like they're being written in character, or was this episode where a writer might have made them speak in a weird way or make weird decisions? Third category is visuals, 1 to 5. Does this episode look good? Is the animation smooth? What are the character designs or the background designs like? Is there a good use of color? Are the locations they might visit interesting? Fourth category is importance. Now this is a bit tricky with Ben 10 because Ben 10 has never been a super arc heavy show. Even the episodes that did have to do with the seasonal arcs were more or less standalone. But what I mean is, like, if you never saw this episode, would you be missing out on the Ben 10 experience? Like, is there really anything to gain from watching this episode, whether it be like obviously advancing the plot and story arc, but also like introducing a new concept into the show? If it had something significant in the episode that the fans reacted to a lot? Or is this an episode that you could have not seen and not even realized because it just didn't really affect anything or have an important impact on the fans? And lastly, how entertaining is it? An episode can score a 5 in all of the previous categories, but it can still just be boring. It's true. Even episodes that have story arcs, or if they're more standalone, an episode can be written very well. It can have great character design and all of that. It could be the season finale, but if it's just boring, then that's how it is. That's sort of the appeal of this type of entertainment content. Well, this is a medium that's sole purpose is pretty much for entertainment and merchandise sales, so making sure the episodes are entertaining is actually a huge factor, and I feel like it's worthy of being the final category. So, plot, characterizations, visuals, importance, and entertainment, you can get 5 points in each for a total of 25 points. Will an episode ever get a perfect 25? Who knows? Let's wait until I've seen like 200 or so of them. And maybe after I fine-tune these videos, if people are still interested, I can even do the reboot. After doing the first episode with all of this in mind, the review came out to 18 minutes. Yeesh. And if I was gonna do that with every episode, it's not like it would be too much to commit to or to edit, but I'm afraid it would just not even be interesting. And leave a comment below to let me know what you guys want to hear me talk about more, or some things you feel I should cut from the reviews going forward. Let's begin. So right off the bat, I've already seen this episode so many times that when I'm watching this, I can't help but just try to break down the visual elements, because it's like every time I see this, I look for something new. So right here we got a background of the stars, an animation of moving stars, the 2 planets are CG. When I go like this, you can see all the asteroids are on like a ring, like it's a picture of circular asteroids on a ring, and then we got some nice CG explosions here. Again, all of this happening in an instant, and when it's your first time watching, you don't really think about it, but this is like my billionth time, so yep, there it all is.
Weapon system's still operational.
I always forget these guys can talk. Alright, so this always bothered me. This was back when theme songs were sort of self-explanatory. Like every time the theme song was there, it's supposed to sell the show. And this theme song happens before anything happens in the episode. And it tells you, like, what's about to happen in this episode and more. So I felt like, at least for this one, like the pilot, they shouldn't have had the theme song. This collar isn't colored in right here. Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did. Great shot of Ben right there. Looks like right around here, the shading for TJ's glasses over on his skin bleeds into his hair.
Pa, a little help here?
Max does not seem fazed by that. Now, I really like this scene because it gives a lot of exposition to who Ben, Gwen, and Max are as characters, without just, like, you know, straight up stating who they are and whatnot. Like, it's a lot less informational exposition and more of just, like, you know, you learn the characters through the personalities they have. For those that don't know, this license plate says Shazam.
Each activity is color-coded, so I never did the same thing 2 days in a row.
Honestly, though, I would do exactly what Gwen did right there. I like to organize and maximize my time, so I don't even blame her. Like, how much time do you waste, like, bulling around trying to figure out what you're trying to do?
What do you got? Some rice cakes and hard candy.
Rice cakes and hard candy. They're really trying to sell Gwen as being, like, some type of, like, unrelatable, not uptight, but, like, you know, just like a bunch of the stereotypical unappealing characteristics. And I don't know, I really like Gwen as a character, but this episode is not selling it for me. I take back what I said earlier, at least in Gwen's character. He could have done that big laser at any point in time too. Gwen somehow got Wi-Fi out here.
How about we tell scary stories?
Oh, Max. He's just trying to connect to his grandkids. Here it comes. Whoa, a shooting star. Boom. Run. Crash. Ooh, look at that. Okay, so, look at, right here. You can see how flat the ground is. You can clearly see it's all just one line. But then, when the dust clears, Ben fades in over it. So you can see he's literally fading in from here. That's Armadillo. I really love the sound design in the original series. Everything sounded like so heavy, I guess. Like it's really important to make sure that your sound effects give off the same presence of material that these things are made of, especially with things like texture. Texture and sound go hand in hand when it comes to telling how much an object weighs or what it's made of, or how it feels. And the original series was really good at all of their sound effects. Like right there was like 8 sounds that played overlapping each other, all for, like, you know, the thing opening up, it rushing forward through the air, the sort of gelatinous shape the Omnitrix takes. Right there, beautiful sound design. Oh yeah, and also this little green mist effect that surrounds the Omnitrix's dial. That's always a treat to see. They don't even do it all the time in the original series, but when they do, it's really nice. Love the original series' transformations too, especially I feel like they put a ton of effort into it because they know they'd reuse them over and over, and it was super worth it. Like you see the dematerialization of the green effect right here. Dial sort of just gets sucked in there. You can even see pieces of rock like flying off of him, like they're growing so fast that they just kind of snap off. Going up, you can see them make an impression in his clothes, up his sleeve, and like this stretchy line effect right here. All of it, like they really went 100% with these. Even how the pupil like stretches and spins. That's nice. And there's this beautiful lava texture that's always under heat blast in the original series. Oh, but look at this though. It looks like some of the Kirby dots, like right around here, are like cut off. Like look right here. So you can kind of see where the texture repeats. It almost looks like it makes an X. Like perhaps it was drawn like this and then rotated like that and then put 3 more times. And then, of course, we get this custom ending to Heat Blast's transformation right here. Just for this episode, as Ben, it's almost like he's conscious in this, like, hypothetical scenarios that happen when Ben transforms. Because these aren't really happening. Oh, yeah, you could definitely see a corner, like, right here. There's something here that's not moving. Not to criticize the animation too much. I'm just pointing out stuff that comes out. But, you know, these things, I like to see them as Easter eggs. They're nice to point out. And see and get to share with other people. It makes you wonder what the artists, animators, storyboarders, everybody's process was when compiling all these scenes together. Consequences of screwing with your superpowers right off the bat too. That's a nice touch of this episode. There's a lot of little neat things about this episode that I like when I'm watching. But since it's like the first episode and we're not too invested in the characters yet, it doesn't really have the Ben 10 charm quite yet. But it's a fantastic episode to come back to. I have this problem a lot with my drawings, where you can kind of see like pixelated fuzz around where the parts of the illustration are keyed out to be transparent over the next layer. Sometimes they just appear, like you won't see them in the drawing. You'll zoom in, they won't be there. You'll export the picture, it won't be there. You'll upload it, boom, they're everywhere. So I get that.
There's no reason to be scared.
Honestly, go Gwen. Like, she's going for it. The little wobbly texture, too, for the heat is nice. And Ben just screwing with Gwen. Alright, I know I'm pointing out so many animation errors. I swear, this isn't what these reactions are supposed to be about, but like I said, I've seen this so much I can't help it. You start down here, and look, his arm's already up. You see the elbow? And then... look, it's like, it snaps back down just for it to come back up again.
What happened to you? Well, when I was walking this meteor...
Excuse me?
I like how he does start to try to just tell the whole story all over again twice. Ben's written pretty well in this episode. It's a very early Ben, very immature Ben, but his dialogue is really good for his character. And Max is just here and he just keys in. He's like, he's ready to help. That should be another hint towards his backstory, I guess, is the fact that he just instantly was just like, I'm gonna assess the situation, I'm gonna figure out what to do. He's worried about the civilians. Like, that's Max Tennyson all the way right there. Love that shot of Vilgax. They made an action figure with him, and you can take off his parts so he can look like that. I had it. I always like this effect right here, how strong the brightness is the first time he de-transforms. It really plays up the drama of what this mysterious watch is capable of.
You guys stay here until I get back.
Doing plumber work. Here comes level 2. This was such a great design, too. The way he folds out, and then the 2 droids come out of the shoulders right here.
You can't tell me you aren't a little bit curious what else this thing can do.
Not in the least.
You sure you're related to me?
For real, like they're just trying to get Gwen to play the opposite of Ben, so Ben gets to truly be himself in this episode, and the characters kind of work around him, so Ben gets to say his lines and whatnot, you know, give us the Ben Tennyson we want. But it's at the sacrifice of Gwen here. And again, this is the first episode. Perhaps they didn't even really have a handle on where they were going with Gwen. But sometimes I like her here in this episode, sometimes I don't. Ben's great. Max just doesn't have enough screen time yet. But it's not bad. It's just I know how well Gwen can be written later, so it's not a fair comparison for this episode. Plus, they're both 10, so. Another great transformation scene. So I always thought these red things were veins, but when I study it closer, it looks like it's just this red aura. I really like how that dial gets shoved in here. This red aura that sort of surrounds the weird bulging of, like, his muscle mass beneath. It's an effect I tried to recreate in 5 years later for Ultraviolence transformation, but, you know, it's hard to get right up into his eye. Look at that detail. I just noticed you can see this orange light right here, too, off to the side. Wonder what that's about. Oh, yeah, and it's sort of glowing, reflecting off of his clothes. I didn't really notice that too much. Great transition into Wild Mutt right here. And then, of course, the very powerful, another great example of how the classic series handled movement and sound effects right here with this one shot of great. In fact, I'm pretty sure there was That little explosion of aura right here. He's so big too. No nails on his feet though. Gwen's just like Ben right here. First chance she gets, she's like, I'm gonna screw with this kid. That was a wonderful way to show his powers too. The visuals with the sort of sonar pulses. That's gotta feel amazing. Like to have that type of like body shape and muscle strength to just swing around the trees. And look at him, like Ben's like, this is his second time ever being an alien. He's just like effortlessly dodging these lasers. That really shows the keen sense the Vulpamancers have with their environment. It's almost better than sight. Great shot. Gwen with a shovel has the same strength feat as Wildmutt's Jaws right now. So let that sink in.
We better help you learn. Fast.
Max is so proud of Ben right now. He's like, I get to bring him in the family business.
What are you gonna do about it, Tennyson?
That was weird. Why did Gwen call him Tennyson? Because like her last name is also Tennyson.
Eeny, meeny,
The dial's so small right there.
here goes.
And look, now it's the size of his palm. It looks, actually, wow, look, it looks like the bands are green here. But I do like how it's at a different angle. Like we got two where it's just crawling up the arm. So we figure that's how they'll all go. And this one right here already tells you, you never know what you're going to get with these type of sequences. You gotta wonder what this feels like too. Go straight into that eye. Ooh. Ooh, that's real nice. That happens a bit too fast to appreciate, but we can take a look at it here. So what's interesting is I'm pretty sure in later transformation scenes you see the spikes grow out of his back, and it gives it a little bit more emphasis. But in the first transformation right here, he just kind of spins around. I'm pretty sure later on they edit the transformation a little bit. Now, it's easy to forget that one of Diamond Head's most common moves, to shoot crystals, he didn't even have at first. So he's gonna do this whole battle just with melee, aside from that last move, which is coming up. This is a nice scene too, because you can tell Ben doesn't have a lot of fighting experience. He's just kind of trying to figure out what to do. But the second he's got to save his cousin, he's like ready for action. Yeah, this looks very powerful. Again, like the way everything looks in the classic series, you can't beat it. It's all of the sub animations and the subtle effects and the care put into the way that things interact with each other and like what it's made of. Like the ground shake right there, where he just like he jumped and he stomped. Things like that are just nice. It's nice to see all the sounds of him moving, the crystals moving with every joint. They bring that back in Omniverse, but Ultimate Alien didn't do it for Diamond Head. That was a shame. So Vilgax's ship is like right above Earth. I wonder if NASA can see him. Look at the detail put into these robot designs too. Like they could easily just be a circle with legs, but these things are really nice. There's a very specific aesthetic that Vilgax and all of his technology had too. That's nice to appreciate.
Check this out.
I love the way Accelerate stands right there. It makes a great silhouette. Now, I'm not promoting bullying, but it is nice that there's like, you know, this is kind of like a bookend to the beginning of the episode. It's like, it's very well-rounded. So, like I said, I've seen this episode a lot, but it's always nice to come back to, especially as a Ben 10 fan. I like to think it's pretty entertaining. I like to think that it could still hold up in something like today's market. The animation is always a treat in classic series, even though there are all those little errors and quirks that I pointed out. They're just something that you see upon repetition. When you're in there in the moment watching the episode, and not pausing it constantly. Everything works together to present the episode in a very engaging and visually pleasing way. Again, I would say Ben is written very well. Gwen was a hit or miss sometimes. Grandpa didn't have too much of a character moment. More of just kind of there to help aid the plot and act as like a third perspective between Ben and Gwen, based on the Omnitrix situation. But as a pilot episode of a TV show, I said you can't get more spot on than something like this. You can see this, you can know what Ben 10's about, how the world works, how the characters are, and who you'll be following for the rest of the series. And you don't get that a lot with pilot episodes. A lot of times the pilots are always like the weird and wonky ones, but the Ben 10 pilot, from the get-go, it sets the stage for the series, and it gets you ready to want to jump right into the next one. So now we're gonna try out my ranking system. For the plot, I would give this episode a 3. It does what it needs to do. Played out pretty smoothly. There doesn't seem to be many hiccups at all. The episode feels just about right with its length. It doesn't feel too convoluted, but it doesn't feel like there's ever a moment where nothing's happening. Something's always happening. But it's nothing too crazy or too special when you contextualize what's happening outside of the fact it's happening in Ben 10, like in comparison to like how unique a plot could be. It's not the craziest thing out there, but you know, this is episode 1. It takes all the tropes and it does its own thing with it, not in a groundbreaking way, but in a way that lets you know the language of the series. Characterization, I'm gonna give another solid 3. It builds upon the base of the characters a little bit. Ben is written great. But again, it's nothing too crazy. There's no real moment that tests the characters of who they are. All this stuff, it's something that can only happen in a later series, but you know, at least within the realm of Ben 10, knowing what's to come, and just based on this episode, I would give this characterization just a 3. Visuals, I gotta give a 5. And that's not as in everything looks so colorful and amazing and a lot of cool stuff's happening, but all the character designs are solid. The coloring is solid. The way this episode is directed is very engaging. They're very good with their shot choices here, so credits to the director and the storyboard artists. Everything feels the way that it's supposed to feel. The art style is pretty unique, I'd like to say. It's easy to get lost in the feel of mid-2000s cartoons, but Ben 10 did have its own flair to it. Importance is a bit tricky, because even though you could say this is the first episode of Ben 10 and it sets up a lot so you have to watch it, it's like I said why I wouldn't have the theme song. If you just listen to the theme song at the beginning of any episode, you get it. You'll miss your introduction to the characters. You'll miss the fact that Vilgax sent the robots out and is now camping above Earth's atmosphere for the first season. But it's nothing that's so mandatory that if you didn't see it, you'll be totally lost. So I'm gonna give the importance a 3. And entertaining, I will give this a 4. I am pretty biased because I grew up with this show, and I don't want to give it a 5 because, again, nothing that happened in the episode was groundbreaking, but everything that it did was very well done. It was done, I feel, to the best that it could have been at the time. They maximized everything that they wanted to. You can tell there was a lot of care put into this first episode, so I would give this a 4 for entertainment. That gives this episode a total score of 18 out of 25 for my ranking system, and thank you guys for watching this episode with me. I hope you guys are looking forward to more. So, what'd you think? Again, I felt like I talked a little bit too much about the animation at some points, and not enough about the characters, but I see that changing in the future. In fact, this whole review I feel like should be cut down a little bit more. I'm just not sure of what things I should cut yet, but I feel like I should at least cut down on longer elaborations and the smaller reactions where I just go, wow, that was a cool shot, and just stuff like that. But at least now I guess I could say if I was ever gonna make a video that was 100% me, this is basically what it would be like. But if this isn't that entertaining, I am open to suggestions on how to spice this up. So yeah, let me know what you guys are looking for in these reactions. They'll be coming out in a few weeks. I'm not sure if I'll have a full-on upload schedule, but I can see one coming out every week or 2 or so. Give the motion comic trailer some support if you want to see it get made. Keep a lookout for that new and beyond. And as always, keep it fizzy.